Alright, testing. We're recording. Alright, your Toxic Substance Control Act, Section 7, Imminent Hazards. Action authorized and required. Administrator to make comments of the civil action appropriate to district court of the United States. The seizure of the imminent hazard chemical substance of the mixture of any article containing such substance as the mixture relief is authorized by Section B against any person who manufactures, processes, distributes, the commercial, and even dispose of the hazard chemical substance and mixture of any article such as the substance of the mixture or both seizures and relief. Civil action commenced under the paragraph notwithstanding the existence of the determinations under Section 5(6)(a) and rules under 4, 5, 6, and Title 4 under the Section 4, Title 4, 5, 6, Title 4. Consent and agreement under Section 4 notwithstanding the pendency of the administrative judicial proceeding any of the provisions of the Act. If the administrator has not made ruled under Section 6(a), immediately effectively authorized in Section 6D3A1 with the respect of the imminent hazard chemical substance and mixtures, the administrator will recommend to the District Court of the United States with respect to the substance and mixture of the article containing with the substance mixture of civil action described in subparagraph A, B, and C in paragraph 1. Relief authorized. 1. The District of the United States with the action with the subsection A with the jurisdiction to grant with the temporary to permanent relief that may be necessary to protect the health and environment from the unreasonable risk identified by the administrator without consideration of the non-risk factors associated with the chemical substance mixture of articles involved in such action. In the case of the article under subsection A, any of the person manufacture process distribute the comments for the chemical substance mixture with any of the article containing chemical substance mixture and substance mixture relief authorized in paragraph 1 and may include the issue of the mandatory ordering requiring A, in the case of the purchaser of the substance mixture and article with known with the defendant notification to such purchaser of the risk with associated, B, with the public known for the such risk, and C, with the recall, and D, with the replacement of the purchase of the such substance mixture and or article, the E, with the combination of the action described in preceding clause, and then gave of the 3, and then gave of the action subsection A with the game of the chemical substance mixture article with the use of the substance mixture article that may proceed with the game of the process of the liable procedure and any of the redemption proceeding, any of the such action with structure form of the nearly possible proceeding of the remedial ad morality. Venue consolidation A1. Any action with the subsection A with the for the person manufacturer processes the distributor the chemical stuff of the mixture of the article with the name of the chemical stuff of the mixture of the may be brought into the United States with the state district court with the district of Columbia any judicial districts without any of the defendant residual or transact business or process of any such action may be served on the defendant any of the district of the defendant resides if it may be found with any article under subsection A with any against from the chemical stuff of the mixture of the name of the brought in the United States District Court jurisdictional with the substance mixture of the article found. In the determination judicial district with the action be brought with the subsection A with the instance of such action with the brought with no more than one judicial district administration shall be taken into account the conveniency of the party. 2. Subpoenas C. Subpoenas required with the tendency of the witness action brought with the subsection A may be served in the judicial district. Alright, 2. Whenever the proceedings under subsection A identified by the chemicals of the mixture article with any of the of the court for the 2 more judicial district, they should be consolidated trial order in any of the court application reasonably made with any of the party in interest upon notice with all of the parties in the interest of the action under the take of the section 6 of the appropriate concurrently with the filing under the section A, but they assume with their practical administration shall initiate the proceeding with the following of the rule 6A of the representation not with any of the provision any of the action of the subsection A of the administration made the direct attorney with environmental technology to appear with the representative of the administrative action. Such action definition for the purpose of the subsection of the term imminent hazard the chemical stuff of the mixture means chemical stuff of the mixture with the representative of the imminent unreasonable risk of the areas of widespread injury or health of the war of the environment without consideration of the other non-risk factors of the risk of health of the environment shall be considered imminent to show that the manufacture, processing, distribution, in commerce or use of the disposal of the chemical substance or the mixture of the aim of the combination of the activities likely to result in such injury or health of the environmental before final rule under section 6 can protect the against such risk. Section 8, reporting and the retention of information. Reports administrators shall propagate the rule that each of the person shall manufacture process of the manufacturer process of the manufacturer process of the chemical substance other than chemical substance described in subparagraph B2 of the shall maintain with the record submitted with the administrator shall be report with the administrator reasonably require and to be each of the manufacturer, small manufacturer process for the manufacturer process of the proposed of the manufacturer process of the mixture or 2 the chemical stuff of the small quantity is defined by the administrator by rule, so the purpose of the scientific experimentation and analysis of the chemical risk of the analysis of the structure any of substances include any research analysis of the development of the product. Shall maintain records of the submitted of the administrative reports only the extent of the administrative term of the maintaining of the record submission of the reports are both necessary for the effective enforcement of the act. The administrator may not require the rule of the promulgated in paragraph of the maintenance record of the submission of the report with respect to change the proportion component of the mixture of the administrator fine with the maintenance of the such record submission with the such reports both if necessary to effect the enforce some effective enforcement of the act. Purpose of the compilation of the list of the chemical substances required in subparagraph B of the administrator shall promulgate the rules pursuant subsection no later than 100 days after the date of this act. The administrator may require the owner, paragraph 1, to maintain the records of reporting in respect of the following insofar as knowing that the person making the report insofar as reasonably certain. A. The common trade name of the chemical identity of the molecular structure and the chemical substance to make sure the weight of the report is required by the categories, proposed categories, use the substance, or make sure the total per amount with each of the substance of the mixture manufacturer proposed with a reasonable estimate, total amount manufacturer process of the manufacturer process of each of the categories, use the reasonable estimates of the amount with the manufacturer process of each of the categories. Proposed categories, you the description and byproducts resulting from the manufacturer processing disposal of each of the substance mixture, the existing information concerning the environmental health effects of the such substance, make sure normal number of the individual exposed with a reasonable estimate for the number that will be exposed substances for the mixture in these place of employment duration of such exposure. The initial report with paragraph 1 over the substance mixture with the man with the method of the disposal and subsequent report with the such substances mixture any of the change with the such manners method. 3A1. The administrator may require with a small manufacturing processor for the chemical substance to submit to the administrator with the information reporting the chemical substance administrator required with the publication of the first list of the chemical substance required by the subsection B. 2. The administrator may by rule require the small manufacturing processor for the chemical substance mixture 1 subject to the rule proposed with the obligated under section 4 or 5B 4 6 in order in effect with the evidence 4 or 5E or the consent of the agreement under section 4 with respect to the relief of the being granted and pursuing the civil action brought under the subsection 5 and 7 to maintain such records and substances and make sure that they over the subject may the administrative reports of the substance make sure they appropriate with the reasonable requirement of the rule under the clause of the requiring reporting may require reporting in respect of the manner is required and referred to in paragraph 2. But the administrator of the consolidation administrator small business administration shall rule practicable stand with the determined manufacturer processors with qualified small manufacturer processor for the purpose of the paragraph. In paragraph 1, no later than 100 days after the enactment of the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act, the 21st Century Act. It is not less than every 10 years thereafter the administrator, after the consolidation administrator, small business administration shall review the adequacy standard prescribed in the subparagraph B, but after providing public notice, opportunity to comment and make a determination whether the relevant standards are warranted. Contents, the rules promulgated pursuant to the paragraph 1 may be issued with a deferred record, keep the requirements of the manufacturer or the processor. B shall include the level of detail necessary to be reported, include the manner in which even the exposure information is reported. Administration, give the order, carrying out the section administrator shall have the extent of the feasible with not requiring reporting of the unnecessary duplicative, minimize the cost of complying with the section rule of the issue there under and small manufacturing processes apply with the report obligation of those person limited. Likely to have the information for the highly effective implementation of the title. Alright, 6. Negotiated rulemaking. Administrator shall enter with the negotiated rulemaking subchapters for 3 of the Chapter 5 of the Title 5 U.S. Standard Code developed and published no later than 3 years after the date of the enactment of the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act of the 21st Century, with the proposal to provide the limiting reporting requirements under the subsection manufacturers or organic byproducts of the byproducts wherever the byproduct manufacturers any of the person subsequently received, recycled, and reused and reprocessed. No later than 3 or 1/2 years after the date of the enactment, the administrator shall publish the final rules resulting in negotiation. Rulemaking and Tory administrators shall comply with the keeping the published list of each of the chemical substances manufactured process within the United States. They shall list at least include the chemical substances within any of the proportion. Reports under the subsection 5 and section A of manufacturing processes within the United States with the such list may not include the chemical substances of the not manufactured process within the United States within 3 years after the effective date of the rule may promulgate the last sentence of the subsection A1. If the case of the chemical substance notice is submitted in accordance with the subsection 5 of the chemical substance include the such list in the earliest date of the determined administrator of which of the substance manufacturing process United States of the administrator refers to publish no later than 315 days after the effective date of this act. The administrator shall not include in such a list of any chemical substances with the manufacturer proposed with a small quantity that defined with the administrator by rule sole purpose of the scientific examination, analysis, chemical research analysis, each substance and other substance, including any research for the analysis of the development of the product to extent that it is consistent with the purpose of the act of the administrator listing. Pursuant paragraph 1 of the chemical substance individually listed with the category chemical substance which substances include non-nomenclature in general. The carrying out of the paragraph 1 administrator shall maintain class 2 nomenclature date of the enactment of the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act 21st Century. Maintain the use of the Soap Detergent Association nomenclature system published in March 1st, 1978 with Administrator Section 1 addendum of the 3 with the documentation with the candidate list of substances further described in Appendix A of the Volume 1, 1985 of the Texas Substance Control Act Substance Inventory. Treat individual members of the category of chemical substance identified with administrative statutory mixture of the defined with the inventory with the description established from the administrator being included listed in paragraph 1. B. Multiple nomenclature listing manufacturer process of the demonstrator with the administrator of the chemicals of the review with the multiple time of the publisher in paragraph 1 on the CAS or CAS numbered and the administrator of the make recognize with the multiple listing of the chemicals, single chemical substances. Chemical substance in commerce. In general, no later than first year of the day of the Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety in the 21st century, the administrator by rule shall require the manufacturer to require process of the subject limitation of subsection 5A to notify the administrator no later than 180 days after the rule posted to the Federal Register each of the chemical substance listed in paragraph 1 of the manufacturing process are applicable to the manufacturing process and non-exemption commercial purpose during the 10-year period ending with the day before the date of the act of Franklin R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act of the 21st century. 2. The active substance of the administration shall designate the chemical substance with notices are of the release received in paragraph 1 of the active substance of the publisher in paragraph 1. Inactive substance of the administrator shall designate the chemical substance with his notices received in the cloud of the inactive substance listed in paragraph 1. Limitation. No chemical substance published in paragraph 1 shall be removed as such by list by reason of implementation of paragraph or by section of 5A1A11 or reach for the change of the active subparagraph 5B. Conditional substances. The promulgation of the rule under subparagraph A of the administrator 1 maintain a list of the paragraph 1 of the shall include the confidential portion of the non-confidential portion consistent with the section 14. 2. Require manufacturer process of the chemical substance confidential portion of the published in paragraph 1 of the secret maintain existing claim with the protection against the disclosure of specific chemical identity chemical substance confidential pursuant to section 14 submitted no since subparagraph A included request. 2. Require substantiation of these claims with the pursuant of section 14 in accordance with the review of the plan described in subparagraph C. 4. Remove any of the chemical substance of the evidence received to maintain existing claim with the protection again with the disclosure of specific claim chemical identity with the chemical substance of the confidential with the confidential portion of the listed published in paragraph 1 of the confidential portion of this list. C. The review plan. No later than 1 year after the date of the administrator shall comply with the initial list of the active substance pursuant to subparagraph A of the administrator shall promulgate the rule for the establish a plan with the remove all claim with the protect with the specific chemical identity with the chemical with the confidential portion listed published in paragraph 1 and serve with the pursuant in subparagraph B of the D. The requirements of review plan establishing review plan paragraph C of the administrator shall require time specified with the administrator of all manufacturing processes are certain the claim of the subparagraph B of the substantiate the claims of occurrence with the subsection 14 of the manufacturing process of the substantiated claim with a submission made under the administration by the 5th year with the ending with the last day of the time of the specified by the administrator in accordance with the subsection 1614. Review each substantiation submitted with the pursuant clause to determine the qualified pursuant to disclosure. Submitted previously with the manufacturing process with the relied lieu of the substantiation required pursuant to clause 1 with the substantiation have not previously reviewed with the administrator to determine if the clause of the warrant protect for the disclosure 2. The approve of the part of the deny of the part of the deny any claim except 3. Any part of the section 14 protect with the disclosure information with the administrator approve of the claim for a period of 10 years unless the prior expiration date of the period. A8. The person notified of the administrator of the person withdrawn with the claim with the copy of the administrator shall have not partaken of the information from the disclosure. BB. The administrator otherwise becomes aware of the information does not qualify the protection from the disclosure in case the administrator shall take the action as described in section 14G2. E. Timeline. Completion review. In general, the administrator shall implement the review plan with complete the reviews all claims specified in paragraph C with no later than 5 years after the date of the administrator compliance for the initial list of the act of the pursuant of the paragraph A consideration. In general, the administrator may extend with the deadline completion of the review with no later than 2 years and 2 additional years after the adequate public justification administrator of the determine the extent of the necessary based on the number of claims that include any needing review of the available resource annual review of the goal result. Beginning with each for the year, the administrator shall publish the annual goal of the review for the number of reviews completed with the prior year. Alright, 5. The active and inactive substance in general, the administrator shall keep the designation of the active substance and inactive substance on the list for the published in paragraph 1A for 1 current. Change it to active status. In general, any person with the extent of the manufacturer product of the non-exemption commercial for the purpose of the chemicals of the designated of the inactive substance shall notify the administrator before the day of the inactive substance manufacturer process. 2. A confidential chemical identity. And the person submitted with the notice under clause 1 active substance confidential portion listed published in paragraph 1 to see with the maintain the existing claim of the protection again with the disclosure of the specified chemical identity with the inactive substance of the confidential person shall consist of the requirement of subsection 14 if the notice of the submitted within clause 1 and certain the claim of the 2 if no later than 30 days after the provided notice of the clause 1 substantiate the claim. 3. Active of the receiver the notification of the law of the administrator shall designate the applicable chemical substance of the active substance. 2. The purpose of the section 14 review any of the claim of the substantiate the submit with the pursuant to protection again with the disclosure of the specific chemical, the identity of the chemical substrate, with the improve, with the proof of the part, with the denying part, and deny the claim. Except to provide in this section 14, protect with the disclosure of the specific identity of the chemical substance for the administrator provide with the claim and the subject claims 2 with a period of 10 years on life of the prior expiration of the period. A the person or the demonstrator with the person with the withdrawn with the claim with the case of the withdrawn with no protect with the information from the disclosure. B the administrator otherwise aware of the information but does not qualify the protection of the disclosure in which the case administrator shall take with the action with the described in section 14G2. 4 of the pursuant of the section 6B with the review of the priority of the chemical substance with the administrator to determine the necessary C with the category staff of the list of the active substance shall not be considered with the category approved of the section 26C. Alright, interim list of the active substance prior to the promulgation of the rules under paragraph or A with the administrator shall designate the chemicals of the report in 7 on part of 7 on 11 of the Title 40 CFR Code of Regulations and in effect with the date of the Act of Frank R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act of the 21st century for the date of the reporting period of most closely preceding date of enactment of the Frank R. Lutenberg Chemical Safety Act of the 21st century with the interim list of the active of the substance for the purpose of the section 6. B. Public information. Subject to the subsection section 14, administrator shall make it available to the public of each of the special chemical and the non-confidential portion listed public in paragraph 1A with the administrator designated with the chemical substance of the active and inactive substance. The unique identifier with the sign of the section 14 precision accession number with the generic name and the applicable with the manufacturer note that each of the K with the chemical substance with the confidential portion list published in paragraph A with the claim of the confidential received. C. With the chemical identity of the activity of the substance for which the claim of the protection again for the disclosure specific to chemical identity, the active substance that not inserted, but it was required by the subsection in section 14. All claim for the protection again for the disclosure chemical, special chemical identity with the active substance that they have denied the administrator of the time period of the protection again for the disclosure of the chemical identity, additional active substance as expired. Limitations. No person is certain with the new claim with the subsection 14 with the protection with the disclosure specific identify with the activity and active substance, which is noted the required in paragraph 4A1 and 5B1, no confidential portion listed and published in paragraph 1. The certification under the rules of the promulgator on the subsection manufacturer processor applicable shows required certified given each for the no substantial manufacturer processor submitted with the comply with the requirements of the rule. They are confidential claim within true and are correct. They retain the record with the compliance with the rule with the substantial support and confidential claim with a period of 5 years beginning with the last day of the definition of the period. Mercury. The definition of the mercury before notwithstanding the 3.2b with the determined means of the element mercury, the mercury compound, publication no later than April 1st, 2017, and 3 years thereafter, the administration shall carry out and publish with the Federal Register inventory with the player mercury supply with the trade in the U.S. The process and carry the inventory under the paragraph B with the administrator shall identify the manufacturer process with the intentionally with the mercury recommended actions and promote the revision of the federal law and regulations achieving further reductions of mercury use. Alright, D. Reporting. In general, the civil preparation inventory subparagraph of any person with the manufacture of mercury and mercury added practically, in other words, intentional mercury and manufactured products that shall be periodic records of the administrative stuff at the time and the period, include the information administrated to determine the rule of the promulgated no later than 2 years after the date of the enactment of the paragraph. 2. The coordination of the avoid the duplication administrative coordinate with the reporting with the subparagraph of the interstate mercury education reporting clearinghouse with exemption call for the shall not apply with the merchant engaged with the generation handling of the management of the mercury containing the waste containing waste unless the person manufacturer receives over the manufacturer management of the waste. C. Records. Any person from the manufacturer process to distribute the comments for the aim of the chemicals over the mixtures that has shall maintain with a significant adverse reaction for the health of the environment to determine the administrative rule alleged to have to be covered with the substance mixture records of the site for the adverse reaction. The health of the employee shall retain with a period of 30 years from the date of the reactions for which for the report of the known with the person attaining with the record of the aim of the record of the adverse reaction shall be retained for the period of 5 years for the day of the information contained recorded first reported as known and the person maintaining the record. Records required for the maintained under subsection shall include the health reports, reports of the occupational disease and injury, reports of the complying with the injury environmental submitted by the manufacturer process for the distributor and comments for the aim of the source upon request of the aim of the duly designated representative of the administrator. Each substance of the person required to maintain the records under the subsection shall permit the inspection of such records shall submit the copies of these records. Health and safety study. The administrator shall promulgate rules under the administrator shall require that any of the person manufacturer processes for the distributing the commerce for the promote the manufacturer process of the distributing the commerce any chemicals so the mixture with the respect to the paragraph any of the person with the possession with the server to submit the administrator of the list of the health of the safety server the aid of the conduct the initiate with the person respect with the such for the substance of the mixture at any time with the know of the such of the person C reasonably certain by the certain such person with except the administrator of the main speed with a certain type of the codes categories from the requirements of the subsection administrator find with the submission list of the each of the study with the necessary of the carry out of the purpose of this act. 2. The copy of the are studied and contain the list of the person in the paragraph 1 of the otherwise known as such person oath of the administrative substantiation risk of the manufacturer process of the distribution of the commerce chemical substance to make sure that they obtain the information reasonably supported by the conclusion each of the substance to make sure that the reference of the substantial risk injury to health of the environment so immediately inform the administrator of such information and left that each of the person acknowledge of the administrator that had been adequately informed of such information, and the definition for the purpose of the section of the term manufacturer processor meaning the manufacturer processor and commercial purposes. Section 9. Relationship of the federal laws.